then we can get into the swing of things. Morning, Trev.
Thanks, Ivan. Well, yeah, it's good to connect with you all. Familiar faces, all look fantastic, and ready for another 3 weeks of lockdown. Yay! I don't have anything prepared. I was wondering what you picked up from yesterday. We've begun a discussion this morning because relating to change. And I'm hearing over and over again in all the articles that I'm reading and just sort of ears out that we are referring to the new normal, that our world is now radically changed, whether you like change or whether you don't like change. It has changed. It's no longer a changing world. Even when we spoke about, I started researching and looking at the fourth industrial revolution and how that was going to impact individual performance and requirements from a soft skills point of view, and understanding that technology was ramping up to the point of sort of exponential growth, but the change that has been brought about by the virus is far greater even than the technological changes that we thought were upon us. We were talking about autonomous cars being on the roads within the next 5 to 10 years, and that seemed like radical. And now we are completely reinventing how we do life. And so there is a new normal. That's what Trevor has just written. Yes, there is no more normal. So I haven't got any slides around it, but I would like to maybe kick off the discussion in that direction as to how are you personally dealing with the understanding of the radical change that has now happened, and what do you think needs to happen going forward?
Great, thanks, Lee. I think that's a so yeah. Trevor's just still busy waking up. I thought you woke up early, Trevor. But anyway, what can we do? Some of us need a bit of time to get going in the mornings. I think it's a fascinating discussion because there are various elements. As you say, we started the discussion before everyone was on the call, which is fine. But I've got a business partner who coined the phrase "nothing keeps on changing," and he was referring specifically to one of his customers. And I think unfortunately many people are exactly like that. They feel that, but where in reality everything is changing all the time. Nothing stays the same, and I think that's a realization that, as Herman said earlier, I think more and more people are coming to realize that change is the constant, and we need to learn how to adapt and grow into that and develop along with that. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. It's one I love. So great discussion topic for this morning. So Herman, yeah.
Well, it was said about thousands of years ago by Heraclitus or something like that was his name, who said you can never step into the same river twice. And I think that realization is only really kind of creeping in our consciousness these days. And yet it was said, as I said, thousands of years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a reality, and the more you embrace it, I think the faster you can move forward. Yeah, Guy, morning.
Cecilia.
Morning. Yeah, two things. I think there's lots of information overload at the moment about everything relative to trying to move forward. Secondly, I've actually forgotten about my second point, so I'll come back to that. How's that? Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
better go and grab that cup of coffee or something a bit stronger. Cecile, you
Well,
want
I'm take my wife's smoothie now. I'm going to have my wife's smoothie.
What I find interesting is I think a lot of people normally have like a 2-week holiday, and the 2 weeks, and then they go back to work. So I think many thousands, millions of people are now freaked out because this holiday is now extending beyond 2 weeks. It's now a month and a bit. So now people are actually, I think the reality will hit to a lot of South African and businesses right now that, you know, the 2-week December holiday that's slow, or Easter that's slow, is something that they kind of used to, but now this is a little bit or very different to any 2-week holiday.
Sure, I don't know about you, Cecile, but I haven't had much of a holiday. We've been flat out here, and I think other people have been as well. And I'm sure you have also. I think you know, you talked about having a quiet day yesterday, and I got tired just listening to all the things you didn't do. So I think you know they
No, I'm not saying we did. I'm not saying this group has had a 2-week holiday. I'm just saying most South Africans, they, when Cyril announced the 21 days, they thought, okay, it's okay, we'll handle it like a holiday. Okay, they'll do different things, but they'll handle it like a holiday when you be away from your workplace for 2 weeks and you come back and everything is back to where you were. You can start off where you finished off the last, just before the holiday started. But now nothing is going to be like that, because many people are going to go back to no work at all. So yeah, it's daunting, I think, for lots of people. I'm not talking about this group, because this group has been thinking out the box since day one.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's it, you know, and unfortunately, as I said earlier, I think too many people think nothing keeps on changing, whereas everything has changed. Yes, Jasper. Jasper, you with us? You there?
I'm listening, but I don't have much to add because I think we were almost busy with the new normal before the current situation was forced on us. And I think all he did was just speed up the adoption of new technology to get done what we were always going to do anyway. And all of us probably had so much on our plate that the last 2 weeks flew by. And it's okay, they've now added another 2 weeks, but I can already see I can probably not get through all my work in the next, with that added 2 weeks as well. So in a way, the new normal for me was my old normal, with the exception I just now have many more Zoom meetings than I've had before. But it's also good because I think with the Zoom meetings, it has forced us to be much more productive. So where we would probably just use the time to catch up with each other's family and hobbies and stuff like that. Now you know that the meeting starts at a certain time, and you give yourself about maximum an hour to get through what you need to discuss. And probably both parties already got other meetings lined up afterwards, so you get your meeting done and over. So I'm actually enjoying the current situation, except I don't enjoy the lack of income, but I know it's a temporary situation, and with what we're working on down the line could even be more income than we've made with the old models.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Yes, Herman.
I think this group should actually carry on the conversations and focus on change after the present series has gone through, because I believe that we need to have conversations around that and put it out there. For example, I strongly believe one of the changes the country needs to seriously look at, considering the crisis we are in, is, for example, Cecile was earlier referring to holidays. Quite frankly, can we afford any more holidays after we go back into inverted commas, a normal kind of business environment. Maybe we should cut Christmas to 10 days and all public holidays should be cancelled because we need to catch up as a country. There are a lot of people not earning any money, and they need to be given a chance to at least recoup some of the stuff they're not making right now. That's just an idea I have.
Great, thanks, Herman. Ian, do you want to comment on what's been said so far?
Yeah, it's interesting. I got a notification from Zoom, and for those people that downloaded the free version of Zoom, they've removed the 40-minute or 45-minute limit during this process this time. So that's a great thing. So people are not restricted if they've got the free version. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, change, the word change is very much like leadership, and there's a few other buzzwords, and people say them all the time and say, well, everything changes. But this is a reality now when people suddenly realize a full understanding of actually what change means. And as Jasper says, and Herman said, you've got to now change the way you do business. And the Zoom calls, I agree, are extremely productive. They're time sensitive. So you end up getting through a lot more than if you normally have a meeting sitting around a table where you waffle for 3 hours and you could actually do everything in an hour and a half. So I think it's brought a discipline into communication and a sense of purpose to achieve something within that time frame. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that habit hopefully will continue. And I find in the Zoom calls I have many every day, are a lot more productive. And I understand there's always a time to sit down with somebody. But in the main, I think this is a new discipline that brings a completely different way and change of the way we do business.
Great, thanks, Ian. Morning, Stella. Would you like to add your thoughts into the conversation?
Morning, everybody. Just a quick one from me. I'm enjoying the conversation, and we really should be having more conversations about change and coping mechanisms, etc. Because usually when we speak like this, we don't speak only for ourselves, but we belong to churches, we belong to groups, we belong to families, we train people. So we have to still transfer this energy. I'm really enjoying that we are tackling something that comes off as such a big, but we need to break it down. We need to start conversing somewhere.
Great, thanks. Hello, yes, Jasper. Trevor, you want to comment? You haven't had a comment yet.
Well, I had two thoughts for this morning if there was not going to be an agenda. And one was just reading Lee's article of yesterday or the day before when she was talking about mindfulness. And I gave a flippant comment back that I like to focus on mindlessness. But in actual fact, I'm looking for a better word than mindlessness. What I'm actually saying is I like to just empty my mind. And so this morning I came up with the word serenity. And I'd love for us to be able to explore that over a period of time. And then the other thought that entered into my mind this morning is that I followed through on Herman's material. I read through all 10 of his mentor programs. I gave him some inputs, and it struck me that the information that I gave back to Herman was that he began his 10 notes with very much himself thrown into it. And then as it progressed from about 6 or 7 onwards, he became more, I'm going to call it low-level academic, low-level technical, which lost my interest. And I thought to myself, what was missing there? Because Herman mentioned his frustration. And I thought, you know what? I want to know more about this guy. 82 years of age. He was a post-war teenager in Germany. So if you think these times are deep and serious, what was it like to be in this guy's shoes in post-war Germany after it had been completely obliterated? That's the story that I want to hear. And then I thought a little bit further, okay, if we go along the age groups, I'm probably next in the blooming thing. you know, my background, I've never really shared too much of where I came from in the younger days, really younger days, which was interesting. Then I go to the next oldest guy in the group. It's that airline pilot. And I'd love to hear where he was and what he was doing in his young days going through. And I think this technology allows us, if we, when we start running out of a few pointers after Lee in about 5 years' time, we should start sharing 15 minutes of background that gets us to really understand what makes up the individual that's sitting in front of us. Because I think there are unique stories. Look at that guy. I look at him and I think, no, there's a deep story there that I want to get to understand. Cecile, I don't know if we'll be able to get that book. It'll probably be an 18 plus something category. And then there's Cello sitting there. What has he experienced? Where's his background? And imagine if we do this 10, 20, 100, we'll never stop this blooming thing. So Herman, I'm inspired by what you did. But I also turned around and said, well, you've inspired me to actually want to know more about you. And I think you've got to write your book and you've got to start it now.
Right, thanks, Trevor. Lee, do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, it's interesting that Trevor has raised this idea of what is it that we've gone through. And in my mind, so yesterday I wrote an article which is posted on my Facebook page, not on LinkedIn, that looked at how has our past prepared us for our future. And it really is saying what is first of all, I looked at pandemics, the plague and the Spanish flu, and saying, okay, so these were probably the most serious and the most devastating of pandemics. What happened then? But then what happened afterwards? How did the world recover after these pandemics? Is there something that we can learn from that? And then I just looked at generations, because I thought, there is a burden now that's been placed on this generation, this group of people, to pick up economies and the world in a way that previous generations, say the baby boomers, who are now sort of at the end of their focus. I'm saying, I know Trevor's smiling at me and Herman as well, so what is the burden on generations? And I actually went and I said, well, of all the generations, I think people who were born at the turn of the 20th century are probably had the greatest burden on them. They were at an age where they would have fought in the First World War. They then had young families during the Great Depression. And then they would have had sons who were old enough to fight in the Second World War. And that was all before the time they were 50. And so then I was thinking, okay, so what happened in my life? What change have I experienced in my life? What life-changing events? And when you just think about living in Zimbabwe during a civil war, coming to South Africa as a student in the 1980s in a politically tumultuous time, experiencing the transition into a democracy here in South Africa, the falling of the Berlin Wall. I was in the States, first of all, when the second space shuttle was launched, and I was in the States when 9/11 happened, and the airplane, I was in Nashville when the skies went absolutely still for 3 days. When the planes crashed, and so these things. I was running a very, very successful business when the Great Recession hit. So these things are also things where we've experienced in all of our lives, as Trevor has said, and I've just pinpointed a few things that have actually prepared us in a sense of dealing with change, learning resilience, picking ourselves up, finding new ways of adapting and working and changing. And so, yes, nothing could have prepared us for this, but there's enough in us to say we can go forward. So I think hopefully what I'm doing in this rather long ramble is combining what I was talking about in terms of change and adapting to change with our life story, which is where Trevor picked up. So maybe you can just comment a bit more on that.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yes, Herman.
Well, it's quite interesting because I belong to a small circle of people. We formed a Writers Club late last year, and all of us are avid readers and have an ambition to write something. And one of the guides we are using, and I shared that with you before, is called The Artist's Way. And what that triggered in me, I eventually, one of the things you need to do is to write some pages every day in the morning. Long story short, I digressed from the actual instruction there and went back as far as I can remember and started writing things down, because I do remember times in my life where I self-sabotage very seriously in quite some self-damaging kind of ways. For me to reflect on that and see what happened and what it possibly triggered is actually something which doesn't depress me. It actually excites me because I'm still very much alive. And I think I have a resilience which not every person being an octogenarian has got. So something I must have done right. And that is actually the reflection I'm doing right now. I'm writing about 2-3 pages every morning. And I also reflect on the successes I had. I mean, just without wanting to give you one example, once I gave a talk to 170 people and the organizer wanted to know what my name to fame was. And I couldn't come up with anything until I eventually wrote from a 14-year-old commercial apprentice to a senior executive of a multinational before the age of 36. Now that's an achievement. I mean, as I said, I started working with 14 with elementary school, and I became a senior exec before the age of 36. And so even though there have been depressing experiences, there have also been very exhilarating experiences. And that, I think, makes the reflection worthwhile. And Trevor, a book is going to come, hopefully.
Great, thanks, Herman. This has been a fascinating discussion, and the time has just flown past us in a blink of an eye. So, it's interesting. I'm sure it's something we're going to pick up on going forward. But I'd just love to run through the group now and just get some thoughts on where you are as an individual in terms of change. So maybe let's start with Ian.
I've looked at my traditional, obviously, consulting business, which I think is kind of something of the past. I think in moving forward, I think people's focus and attentions in different areas. So I'm kind of reinventing. I'm involved in a new project at the moment, which is very exciting and keeps me busy every day. So I kind of have reinvented myself and looked at and refocused on what's important and what I think sort of people will need. So so it's been a time of reflection, but certainly been a very productive time for me on a daily basis.
Right, thanks Ian. Silla, what about you?
I don't have much to add, but yeah, in terms of just change, we're just watching the situation. And as I said earlier, we're trying to study it as much as we can because we're always going through change, but we always need to be present in the moment. So we will have to ask ourselves, what did we learn from that thing and what can we take with us? What can we leave behind? That's just a natural kind of a reaction, I suppose. But thank you for the conversation. And yes, I definitely look forward to hearing more about Herman's story, Ian's story. I mean, you guys are older, so you would have seen the world, and it would be very nice to really see, from your eyes and to see the world from a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Still, the youngsters like you and me, we've got to learn from these old folk on the forum here. So, Cecile, what are your thoughts on the discussion this morning?
What is interesting is I thought in the beginning of the lockdown, I thought, okay, the thing that I will do is focus also in this time, focus also on, I've got another part of my business that's multi-level marketing, which Ian knows about, which is one of the biggest shopping networks in the world. And everyone is still shopping, but everyone is looking for a little side hustle now. So that's the focus of my spare, let's call it spare time. So that's what I will be doing more of in the next 3 weeks, because the telecoms things are quiet at the moment, but we'll have to relook what's happening with the telecoms world. Yes, because stuff is still happening, but in a different way. But yes, we'll look at something different.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Guy, your thoughts?
Thank you, Ivan. The point that I forgot was I seem to sense a feeling generally on the various platforms that a lot of people are panicking in terms of what's the new thing for them, and trying to establish what is the new norm for them, or whatever the new abnormal. And there seems to be quite a lot of panic out there when it comes to entrepreneurs, or what I call SME owners. To me, there's a subtle difference between the two, which we could get into at another time. So that was the point that I forgot. The second point was, what's interesting is not judging a book by its cover. And I used to be really bad at that. Back in the day, and that I had an ego big time. Some people might think I have an ego now. I don't believe I have one. But anyway, so judging a book by its cover, I've come unstuck quite a few times doing that. So that's I've tried to minimize that over the past number of years. And then just finally, Ian raised a few of the comments that I'm going to raise now. In 2017, because I'm a simple person, I came up with a simple module or a model called Thinking, Discipline, Behavior, and Habits. And through this time, that stuck with me, and I coach people on it, etc. So, yeah, our thinking's got to change. Our disciplines are definitely changed. We a Zoom meeting at 8, and it finishes at 8:32, so there's no messing around. So our behaviors are changing, and then we're getting into certain technology habits. So it's all quite fascinating. And I suppose on this forum and that, Trevor and who else? Sila, you'll get to know me. Ian went to Fort Victoria High School in Rhodesia, and I went to Guinea Fowl, and we used to stuff them up at rugby, big time. So anyway, thank you for today. Lee, good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. And yeah, I went to Chaplin, and we beat both Fort Vic and Guinea Fowl. So we just
No.
So yes, for final thoughts from your side.
I try to get myself unmuted. I think I fully concur with Trevor that we each have a story, and we each have a reason for being here, and we each have a reason for having traveled life's journey the way we've traveled it up till now, because it still points to a better future. And it would be interesting, in some of our forums, if perhaps we give the floor for about 15 minutes to a person to just dig deeper in his story and focus on his story and life lessons from that, and almost help him to clarify, so why do you think you've gone through that story? But the thought also came to me with all of us saying the same thing, and that is that it happened so fast. That's how loss happened. The loss of a loved one. You don't plan it, and then that person is gone, and now you can never go back. So I'm almost thinking the loss of our old life, the loss of our old way of doing, just crept up on us, and all of a sudden, with one announcement, is over. None of us could prepare for it. And I'm just would be an interesting discussion to just say the normal phases of grief. I don't know, can't recall the exact sequence, but let's say shock and then anger and then all that phases. How is that playing off right now in front of us? But the end result is we make peace with the fact that it's over. We've mourned, and now we get on with our lives, because everybody who has gone through loss have managed the loss and have carried on. So that could also be an interesting angle to add to our conversations going forward.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Trevor, final word from you.
So I'm sitting there just looking in the background here, and that background was my office back in 1990 when I sold out Academy of Learning and set up operating from home. And my biggest frustration was being able to communicate with people, and that was through newsletters through the post office. Then in 1994, along came the internet, and I thought, man, here we are, we're ready to start communicating with hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. Well, it took to about 2000 before I could even start converting the print into digital media. And only now has the rest of the market here in South Africa been enforced to catch up to the way that I want to actually work. So that's now 2020. I am so blooming excited with what is happening right now. And the trick is now to compile everything that we've learned in terms of information and content, etc., and take advantage of the gift that has been given to us. I put this on LinkedIn yesterday as we've been gifted with a lemonade stand. So that for many people, you take lemons, which they might think that we've got, and you convert them into lemonade.
Great, thanks, Trev. And Cecile, I think you should have a chat to Trevor. Unfortunately, he's still got his internet technology from 1994. I think he needs an upgrade to something a little bit faster and a bit more modern, and then he might catch up with the rest of us eventually. So. Okay, folks, fantastic discussion again today. Thanks for all of you for your time and your thoughts and your input today. I think it was really great, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow again at 8 o'clock. Go well. Have a great day.